Alan Smith, Scottish National Party MEP. A deal has been struck on the Common Agricultural Policy reform. It's not yet quite the end of the road, but so far, as we know from this deal, what would you say were the big wins for Scotland? Where are we going to see big changes?
Well, the fact that we have a deal at all is hugely useful, and it allows people to plan. It's also well timed with my throat just about to give out, evidently. So the fact that we've got a deal signed off now, it still has to, you're right, be signed off by the full Parliament, but we're pretty much there. And the financial aspects are going to be discussed in the context of the budget negotiations. So there's a question mark over that too. But on the CAP side, we have got as good as we're going to get.
And let me take in turn then some of the aspects of this, because I know it's very wide ranging. For example, on rural development, which was an aspect that you yourself worked on, just explain what's happened there and what you make of it.
Well, the rural development dossier, we won a number of flexibility points for Scotland, which will help in terms of encouraging short supply chains, encouraging cooperatives, encouraging people to work with their neighbours to create local food marks, short supply chains to local markets. So lots of good stuff in there. We've also seen a lot of progress on animal welfare. So that'll be hugely important, and Scotland's got a great story to tell on animal welfare and farm assured schemes, so we'll be able to take that forward. And crucially, what we've got is lots of flexibility for local communities, local organisations to implement things the best way that's going to work for them.
In practical terms, what difference do you think that will make in Scotland, in your constituency? What kind of schemes would you expect now to see as a result of this?
Well, what we've got presently is the LEADER programmes, which are very much bottom-up. It's about how local people can organise themselves. We're going to see a lot more of that. We're going to see that sort of principle across all aspects of rural development. So we're going to see much more cooperation on energy projects for farms. We're going to see local energy produced on farms for the local community. Lots of good stuff like that, where there will be EU money available to help encourage that sort of cooperation and encourage people to come up with innovative schemes. So we really are opening the door to some really pretty good sustainable projects now.
Another aspect has been so-called young farmers, encouraging people to get into the industry. What do you make of the agreement on that aspect?
Yeah, we've done quite a lot on that. Crucially, we've ended slipper farmers, so you won't be able to get any public money because you used to be a farmer anymore, so you do need to be an active farmer. We've also put young and new entrants on a much better footing than they were previously, so that'll encourage new blood into farming. It'll encourage changeover in terms of succession of older farmers getting out the business, finally get to put their feet up, and encouraging younger people in. So we've put some budget towards that as well, so that will be very helpful on changing the demographics of farming.
There has been an ongoing concern about crop rotation requirements. Has there been movement on that front, or is that something you're still battling on?
We are still battling on that, and the agreement that's been struck on that, particularly on the 3 crops rotational rule, that if your farm's bigger than 30 hectares, that will cause problems for some of our guys, so we're going to need to make sure that that's implemented properly. I do think there is sufficient flexibility for us to do that, but we're still working on that.
And when you say you're still working on it, how much flexibility is there still to negotiate on some of these aspects, given that a deal has been struck?
Well, the deal's been struck which sets the general framework, but it's now over to the member states, and in the UK we do this 4 different ways. The home nations all have competence to implement this in different ways within the margins of the flexibility that exists. So it is up to the Scottish Government now to come up with ways that we can do the modelling to make sure that we're achieving the policy objectives in a way that suits our farming. So there is flexibility still to be worked on there, and we certainly will.
And I'll keep it brief. Just one final question is about the budget, because it's going to hinge on that. We hear just today that a nominal deal has been struck on that. We'll see where that goes in the vote in the European Parliament next week. How important is that, getting that right for farming, for the CAP reform to actually go ahead?
The budget's overshadowing everything, because reality is I can be as enthusiastic as I like about the structure of rural development. If there's only £2.50 in the budget, well, we can't do much with it. And what we have seen on the part of the UK government is a fixation on the UK rebate, which comes nowhere near English agriculture, Welsh agriculture, Scottish agriculture. It stays entirely within the UK Treasury. And yes, that's our Treasury too, but I flatly disagree that that's the best way to help rural Scotland, rural UK, and I think it's short-sighted on the part of the UK government. But we do have a provisional deal agreed. It remains to be seen whether that'll make it through plenary next week, but this is going to be hotly contested yet, so we're still going to go down to the wire on that one.